How you doing today? It's been a tough day.
It's been a tough day.
A long day.
New at 10, audio from inside the courtroom where the lead detective in Lori Vallow Daybell's murder case took the stand today. Day 7 was also spent going over horrific photos of her 2 kids' bodies. But the trial also took a surprising turn when the mom accused of killing and conspiring to kill her two children asked to be excused from the courtroom. That request came amid that graphic testimony about how her kids' bodies were found. And we want to warn you, you heard the detective say today was rough. And it might also be really rough for some of you at home to hear this. Here's Morgan Romero with a look back at what happened in court today.
I'd ask the state at this time to call their next witness.
The state calls Ray Hermosillo.
Rexburg Police Department's lead detective in this case. Ray Hermosillo talked about how police in Gilbert, Arizona first contacted him about Chad and Lori. Then he testified that he learned Lori's children, J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan, were missing in November 2019. Hermosillo says he went to Hawaii to track Lori and Chad down. He went over the search warrant law enforcement served at Daybell's house in Rexburg. This was June 9th, 2020.
They began removing the soil. Once they started removing the soil, slowly, methodically, we began to see a black, round object starting to protrude through the dirt. Just a few inches deep. It wasn't very deep at all before we saw the round object. It appeared, looking at it, appeared to be like a texture of a plastic bag. They continued to dig around that, what we started to call the burial site, and eventually exposed what appeared to be a small body wrapped in black plastic.
Hermosillo went into detail about how JJ and Tylee were found on Daybell's property on that day. JJ wrapped in a trash bag and layers of duct tape. Tylee's body burned. As Hermosillo explained what led up to the discovery, the prosecution showed photos of the property where the kids were buried and gruesome photos of their remains. JJ's grandfather, Larry Woodcock, sobbed when he saw photos of JJ's autopsy. He told reporters Tuesday morning he tried preparing himself for the horror he knew he was about to witness.
It's going to be a hard day, I think, but, we will see. We're all ready for it.
After lunch, something unusual happened. Vallow's mood changed. She looked upset. One of her attorneys asked the judge if he could meet with her privately. The court took another long break as Lori met with her attorneys in a hallway. Prosecutors and the judge also left and met with the defense team. They all eventually came back in, and Vallow's defense attorney asked if Vallow could leave court for the rest of the day.
It was emotional this morning, and she indicated to us she did not want to attend this afternoon. We would remind the court of the history of this case with my client, her fragile state of mind, the mental health concerns.
The judge said no, requiring her to stay. The rest of the afternoon, as pictures of her kids' remains were shown, Vallow looked down. Criminal defense attorney and former Idaho Attorney General Dave Leroy says while Vallow has a right to be in trial, criminal defendants do have a right to ask not to be there for parts of it. But taking multiple long breaks and asking to voluntarily leave is unusual. Leroy says if defendants leave court, it's usually because the judge kicked them out for being unruly.
The defendant does have the right in the courtroom to take a time out if they're physically ill, if they're not composed, if they're distraught or having other difficulties, or if they need to communicate something directly and privately to their counsel. So timeouts are not unusual. Breaks are accorded. Reasonable breaks need to be had from time to time. But to have repeated breaks, to have them unresolved, to have a request for removal from the courtroom voluntarily is very atypical. And the judge has handled it in a way that hopefully makes a record that this does not become an appellate issue or a continuing situation for either the defense or the prosecution.
Leroy says attorneys from both sides see all the evidence the other side plans to present in their case ahead of trial. And the defense is obligated to show their client all the evidence as well, meaning Vallow likely saw the photos before today. Leroy does not think Vallow's reaction was staged or that her attorneys told her to get emotional. He says, on the contrary, defense attorneys work with their clients to not show any emotion ever.
And we didn't want to go into too many details about Tylee and JJ's remains. And if you want, you can read more about how they were both found at ktvb.com. You can also find live updates from Vallow Daybell's trial on our website throughout the next couple of months. And for all of our coverage, you can scan the QR code on your screen or check out our website at ktvb.com. You can also find information on the KTVB app or KTVB Plus.